Happy Monday, Graydon Hornets. We are going to start another project today. I'm going to be reading another story from this book that I love, Wild Lives, 50 Extraordinary Animals That Made History. The story I'm reading today is called Giraffe, the first giraffe in France. And then we are going to make a folding surprise drawing of a giraffe. So I'll read the story to you first. Giraffe, the first giraffe in France. Many animals make great journeys, but very few have ever traveled as far as Giraffe. The beautiful giraffe began her life on the plains of Africa and ended it among the grand boulevards of Paris after walking almost the full length of France. Her story began in 1824 when the Viceroy of Egypt, a powerful ruler, decided to send a gift to the King of France. In those days, it was common for royals and leaders to exchange luxurious presents as a way of showing their wealth and friendship. But rather than sending expensive jewels or silks, the viceroy chose something more unusual. He wanted to give the king a giraffe. Giraffe was just a baby when she was captured by hunters in the African wilderness. She was too weak to walk properly, so she had to be strapped to a camel and carried to the banks of the Nile River. From there, she was taken down the river on a small boat to the Mediterranean Sea, where a sailing ship was waiting for her. The ceilings on board were too low for Giraffe, so a hole was cut in the deck so she could poke her head and neck into the open air. The ship carried her more than 1,550 miles across the waves to Europe and the French city of Marseille. This would have been an enormous shock for a young giraffe. It was an enormous shock for the people of Marseille, too. No giraffe had ever set foot in France before, so the arrival of Giraffe with her long neck, elegant eyelashes, and spotted coat caused a sensation. Her epic journey, however, was just beginning. The king lived in Paris, 500 miles to the north. There was no easy way to transport a giraffe across the land, so it was decided that Giraffe would have to walk. Her incredible march through France began in May 1827. Helping to look after her was a naturalist, an expert who knew a lot about animals. He made sure she was wearing a special yellow cloak to keep her warm and shoes to protect her feet. She was also joined on her journey by a small herd of cows, who provided the milk Giraffe needed to stay strong. She was still a young giraffe, but she was growing fast. In every town she passed through, people rushed to catch a glimpse of this tall, exotic creature from a distant land. When she reached the city of Lyon, 30,000 people crowded the street to see her. Giraffe was becoming a celebrity. She trod on day after day, week after week. She passed orchards and vineyards, hills and forests, castles and villages. Finally, more than 40 days after leaving Marseille and 3,000 miles away from the plains of Africa, where she had been born, the giraffe arrived in Paris. The people of the city were amazed by Giraffe. She was presented to the king in his palace, then taken to her new home in a famous garden, the Jardin des Plantes. More than 100,000 Parisians came to admire her. Artists came to paint her picture, writers wrote stories about her, and bakers made special giraffe cookies in her honor. Some ladies even wore spotted dresses and had their hair arranged in towering giraffe-like hairstyles. Giraffe remained in Paris all her life. She stayed in the Jardin des Plantes for the next 18 years, dying peacefully in 1845. Today, her body is still displayed in a museum in the French city of La Rochelle, a tribute to a remarkable and very brave giraffe. All right, so we are going to make a folding surprise of Giraffe so that this picture opens up so we can see the entire giraffe. So first we're going to do a little bit of folding. I've got my paper here with my short sides on the top and bottom, and I'm going to fold the short sides together. I want to make sure my corners match up as much as possible before I crease my paper. Then I'm going to take the top flap only, the top piece of paper, and I'm going to fold it up to the top two corners, and I'm going to make sure again that they match before I crease my paper. All right, so we are ready to draw Giraffe, and we are going to start with her head, and we're going to put her head kind of over here on the right side. Now her body is going to go actually below this fold line, and her head and neck are going to go above. So the first thing I'm going to draw right up here, about maybe 2 inches from the right, is her little ear. So I'm going to draw 2 curved lines like that up there in the corner. And then I'm going to draw the little giraffe horns next to the ears. I'm going to leave a tiny bit of space between them. And I'm going to draw these 2 little shapes, kind of making those little giraffe horns. Then I'm going to draw the front of her face. So I'm going to start in the front of the horns, and I'm going to draw a line that curves down and makes a little loop at the bottom there. And then I'm going to connect these little spaces between the 2 horns and between the horn and the ear to kind of make the head all one piece. And then I'm going to add the second ear, making it look like it's sticking out behind her head there. So next I'm going to draw the rest of her head. I'm going to make this line kind of curve over a little and then under. So I'm going to go just over a tiny bit and then under. And I didn't connect that line to the ear, but they did come pretty close. So her neck is actually going to start kind of in the middle of this bump here. And I'm going to make it kind of curve out a little and then come down and stop at the fold line. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the ear. I'm going to start here, and I want to keep these lines parallel or equal distance from each other so they don't get closer or farther as we move down to that fold line. Next, I'm going to draw her eye right here under the horn, starting with the line that curves over, and then a small circle that I almost fill in but leave a tiny dot for that little highlight. At the end of her nose, I'm going to draw a curved line, and I'm going to draw a small nostril and a line for her mouth. All right, so next I'm going to draw the beginning part of her body. So right here I'm going to skip under the folded line here, and I'm going to make a small line that curves and then comes straight across right under the fold line and turns down just a little. So these lines don't actually connect there yet. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the front of her body. I'm going to leave a little space, start just below that fold line, and kind of draw a line that comes down and curves in just a little bit, about halfway to the bottom of the page. So we're going to make her with really short legs to fit on the paper. So I'm going to make this line back here on the back of the giraffe kind of curve around, but I'm going to leave a little space for her legs. Now I'm going to make the back of her back leg kind of bend backwards, almost to make like her kneecap. So I'll start by going diagonal to the left and then diagonal to the right, all the way down to the bottom. When I draw the top of her leg, I'm going to start up in this space here, and I'm going to come down to this same corner and then go out. So I'm going to start up here, draw this line curving down and then out, and then I can draw her hoof at the bottom by making 2 lines. So then I'm going to draw her front leg next, and I'm going to start up in the body again, kind of like where I started that line, and I'm going to come down, touch the front of her body there. I'm going to make a little bump for her knee in the middle, and then kind of go diagonal to the right like I did on that other leg. I'm going to start on the other side and kind of do the same thing on the opposite side, and then connect with 2 lines to make the hoof. Now to make the other 2 legs, I'm going to draw basically the same thing but peeking out from behind. So I have to finish her belly here by drawing a line that connects between her legs. I want it to look like if it went through there, it would connect to the front here. Then I'm going to draw the back leg. So I'm going to repeat this line, but only from the belly. And then I'm going to draw just the back part of the leg that would stick out here. I'm going to make it slightly higher so it looks like it's farther back. Same thing on this front leg. I'm going to put it in the front of the leg I already drew. And I'm going to make it just slightly higher than that first leg. So now I'm going to draw the tail back here at the back. I'm going to draw 2 curved lines that are really close together. And at the end, I'm going to make a little tuft of fur by drawing a zigzag line that kind of connects around. Next, I'm going to open my folding surprise. Now, to make the neck connect, I'm going to make it kind of curve forward and then back. So I'm going to make it stick out just a little bit here. and then curve back and connect. And I'm going to repeat that exact same line here. That way, when I close, it matches. When I open, Giraffe's neck gets really long. And the only thing we've got missing here is her mane. So I'm going to start where her ears are, and I'm going to draw a zigzag line skipping over the ear. That comes all the way down.
What are you drawing?
I'm drawing a giraffe.
Oh.
Hey, don't shake the table, okay? All the way down here to the body. So now that my giraffe is drawn, I'm going to add her spots. And the spots are not circles. They're kind of geometric, but they have all different shapes. So I'm going to start on her face with just a few kind of irregular shaped geometric spots. And then I'm going to start going down her neck. Now I don't want any of the spots to touch. And I want to kind of put them all in different places. Some on the sides of the neck, like they're wrapping around. Some in the middle. Some larger, some smaller. And I'm drawing them so they're not circles. They're just sort of, we call this shape an organic shape. It's not like a geometric shape that has a name and a certain number of sides. Organic shapes are kind of like shapes that you would find in nature, like the shape of a lake or a pond or a giraffe spot. They don't have a name or a specific rule that defines the way they need to look. So I'm going to keep these spots going down kind of to the tops of her legs. I'm going to make them get a little smaller down here on her belly. And then we will be ready to color our giraffe. So when we close her up, she looks like a tiny baby giraffe. When we open her, she gets taller. Now, if you wanted to, you could add some things in the background, especially things that you might see in Paris, like a little town or even the Eiffel Tower, things like that. Or you could draw a savanna with long grasses and trees to make her look like she's in her natural habitat. All right, so I'm gonna start coloring my giraffe, and I'm gonna start with yellow. And I'm actually gonna color her whole body yellow, even the spots at first, but I'm gonna color really lightly so that I can layer brown over her and still make the spots brown. So I'm using colored pencils, but you could use crayons, markers, whatever you've got at home to do this. And I'm just using a really light pressure with my pencil to fill all the way in, so I don't want to scribble, but I don't want to color as hard as I can, because then I won't be able to put another color on top. I'm not coloring her mane because I know that's going to be brown, but I am going to color her ears, her face, and her nose there. Okay, so I'm going to find a brown next, and the first thing I'm going to do is color the horns, the mane, all of the hair here, and the tip of the tail, and then I'll color the spots. But then I can even add some shading. So I'm coloring, again, I'm coloring all the way in, but lightly. I'm gonna add a really light layer of brown here on the nose, on the outside of the shape, and then make it even lighter on the inside so it looks a little bit round. Okay, I'm going to color the end of her tail here. And then I'm going to layer over the yellow to color the spots. Okay, now that I've got my spots colored, I'm gonna go around the edges and add a few shadows to make my giraffe look a little more 3D. So I'm gonna start with a little brown shadow on the foot that goes behind. I'm gonna do that on both the front and the back legs, just a little brown, light brown shadow there. Then I'm gonna add some around the back of the giraffe. And I'm kind of making it darker on the edge and then get lighter as I move in towards the giraffe so it kind of fades. I'm going to do it under the belly here. On the front of the giraffe. And then I'm going to do both sides of the neck. So it makes it look a little more like a cylinder. Just a little 3D. Gonna go behind the jaw there on his head. Then I'm gonna do the top of the head, add a little shadow there. And the bottom of the head to make it look a little round. And then on the ears, I'm gonna add a little bit of brown on the inside there, on that one. Shade the top of this one. And the last thing I need to do is color my hooves black. And unless I want to add some background details, then my giraffe is done. And my folding surprise is finished.